Hey Squiggles, how are you doing? Doing good? Nice. Give me just a second. Just got off 14, did some treasure maps with new friends. Hey Nautilus, how are you doing? Oh gosh, coming out swinging with immediate suicidal lines.
Oh, this room. It's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest, though. And it's been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to stay so familiar.
My voices might be a little bit off tonight, but we'll play it by ear. I didn't know when you might return, and I wanted everything to be as you'd left it. But it has been some 6 months, that's true.
So is your father all right, Susie? What happened? My father?
Yes, Professor Mikotoba. I mean, it was half a year ago, but that's why you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram you received saying he'd fallen ill with a very high fever for some unknown reason.
That's right. So I was surprised to learn you'd be coming back so soon. Surprised but happy. I think I wrote about it in my letter to you. That it was all a trick. My father is in fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that.
Well, we're all delighted to have you back.
It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. It's because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium.
International Forensic... It's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned.
Anyway, I've arrived safe and sound, and all that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh.
You must tell us everything that happened while you were back in Japan. Ugh.
Yes, of course, I shall.
And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you-know-who. About Kazuma.
I know. I'll tell you all that I can.
Cases in Resolve are all really good. We have not finished the case of the stabbed teleporting man. We're on day 2 of that case currently. Whoa, lots of stuff.
When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I'd never be allowed to return to Britain. But curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, Father's mood changed entirely.
Well, trial. Oh, yes. For the murder of Giselle Brett.
Oh, you dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? Oh, well, yes. Since women are forbidden in the courtrooms, or in the courtroom, I had no choice. Wow, amazing! I wish I'd seen it. Don't you, Marino?
Yes, I suppose so.
I want to play at being a lawyer now. I could wear a false mustache, maybe.
I don't think any mustache could hide the fact that you're just 10 years old, Iris. Something else I've been wanting to ask you, Miss Susato. It's about the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter it was something to do with that convict's loot we found in Mr. Natsume's lodgings.
That's right. The very large dog collar we found with the bee emblem on it. It seems that Mr. Natsume included a drawing of the collar in the report he submitted about his time in Britain.
Do my voices sound off to y'all, or am I just thinking too much about it? It feels like they've dropped a little bit, but...
I understand that when Father saw the report, he turned white as a sheet.
Why would that be, then?
Father came to Britain himself, of course, to study. It was some time ago now, but he stayed for 6 years. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But if he refuses to tell me what it is, then I intend to find the answers for myself. And I've decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, and Susie.
It's a very meaningful look in Susato-san's giving Iris there. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium, too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend.
Yes, and from Japan, my father and Judge Jikoku have been invited. It's something of an honor, I believe.
Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine for our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? A judge, did you say?
Yes, His Excellency Judge Seishiro Jikoku. You've met him, Mr. Naruhodo. Last year, in the Supreme Court. You can't possibly have forgotten. That terrible trial of yours, when you were accused of murder.
Ah, yes, I try to think of that as a positive turning point in my life these days.
Well, it was Judge Jikoku who presided over that trial.
Perfectly honest, I'd be happy to never see that man's face again in my life.
Oh, well, anyway, as Father was invited to the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain, too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and in the end, he agreed to me going on ahead.
Yes, about the symposium. It seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. It's obviously very important.
I believe it is yet,
Wow, there was no pause for that comma.
I believe it is, yes. And as I understand it, Lord Strongheart organized the entire event himself. I think he's hoping that by achieving exceptional results, he'll get the job of Attorney General.
Senior position in the British justice system.
He's hoping to use his power to create the world's finest policing institution. And that's what Father said anyway. Apparently it's Lord Strongheart's lifelong ambition.
Does Professor Mikotoba know Lord Strongheart personally then, I wonder? Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a long speech all about this very subject only yesterday. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really listen to much of it.
How trying for you.
Giselle Brett. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongly accused of a crime I didn't commit. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, Giselle Brett. It's a name I won't forget for as long as I live.
The extraordinary thing is, though, it seems it's a name we should all forget.
Sorry?
And since the incident, our government's intelligence services have been investigating Miss Brett. But it turns out that an Englishwoman by the name of Giselle Brett didn't actually exist.
Didn't exist? But how can that be?
It was a pseudonym. Her real name was Shin, and she wasn't a visiting student either. That was the front.
Front? Who on earth was she then?
Miss A. Shin. Her name is literally all our intelligence services have been able to ascertain about her. Nobody knows why or even how she came to be in Japan.
Sounds like a conspiracy to me.
It's a complete mystery.
But that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. Is Asian. Sorry, like... Okay. But that makes no sense. It's no easy task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. What could the woman have been up to?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The only thing we can be sure of is that she had some business in our country that we don't yet understand.
Now she's been killed, while all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered.
I'm afraid so.
A. Shin. Who on earth was she? And why do I feel as though I've heard that name before somewhere? He literally just looks like a slightly, less pale Venzigs.
After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange.
I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never...
Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at the time. But later, I visited the man in his prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma-sama.
What did you learn?
After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been unladen at the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of the consulate staff there.
Should have been.
Well, it turns out, that his body never arrived. It just disappeared.
What? Kazuma's body vanished?
Our government tried to cover the fact up, it seems. They've erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown. Except, Kazuma-sama isn't there.
Did Professor Mikotoba know about this?
Yes, it would seem that he did. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma-sama's body as we speak.
I just don't believe it. What is this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on the SS Bureau are definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Could it be... Could it be that he's actually still alive?
Stop it, Mr. Naruhodo. It's too much to bear.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
Just thinking about the possibility pains me. So very much. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. When Kazuma-sama was discovered, Mr. Sholmes was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remember it clearly.
Ah, you're right. So if Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would mean that Mr. Sholmes had lied to us.
But there's no reason why he possibly would have done such a thing.
I suppose that's true, yes.
The idea that he might still be alive somewhere. It wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it. Because if it turned out not to be true, then I'd be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. I'm terrified of what that might do to me.
Oh, Miss Susato. No, she's given the idea the thought it deserves. Susato-san we're talking about, after all. So I probably shouldn't push it now.
You're still taking good care of that armband, I see. I'm so pleased.
Well, yes. Feels like I wouldn't be me without it now, to be honest.
Oh dear. There seems to be a thread coming loose just there. Look. I'd be only too happy to mend it for you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, thank you. Must have scraped it against something again. I'm always doing that.
Then take better care of it, please.
It's all going so well until I ruined it. I'm still, like... I genuinely don't know how, this crime has happened yet, and that's especially interesting because, 99% of cases after the first Ace Attorney game don't go into the third trial day. And so that means that we're probably gonna find something to try to connect it in this investigation segment, but, like... Man, I don't know what the hell we're gonna find. Like, I'm genuinely curious. They've done a good job of coming up with a situation that has a lot of Like, it's a very well-constructed mystery. You know what I mean?
It must be about a year ago now. I wrote a really long story based on some of my father's old notes. It's about one of Hurley's greatest exploits. I call it The Hound of the Baskervilles.
But then, Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it. And put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. Speaking of which, where is that manuscript now?
And so nobody knows anything about it, apart from Hurley and I. But for some reason, you knew the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Oh, it sounds so exciting. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I should love to read it. And you wouldn't tell me how you'd come to know it. Yes, but I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? I think it's time. Oh! I'm only sorry I have had to keep it for... I'm only sorry I had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of your manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study, and I saw something on his writing desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English. It read, The Hound of the Baskervilles.
What?
My Baskerville story.
Yeah.
Of course, I had no idea what it was at the time. But Father came in and...
Susato, what are you doing?
Oh, Father.
Did you look at those papers?
No, I simply read the label, that's all.
Well, put it out of your mind.
Sorry?
Forget that you ever saw it. Certainly don't tell anybody else about this. Do you understand? Mikotoba's had, like, 15 different voices. But what was Iris's manuscript doing in Japan?
I have no idea. But when I heard Iris mention the word Baskerville that day, the title just slipped out. I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Sholmes' exploits.
That Smoliv emote is really cute.
When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain, but he refused to answer any of my questions. And there was no sign of the big box in his office. That's all I really know about it. I have no doubt that Father has a very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still. I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I'm ready to start investigating if you are. I've committed every detail about the case to memory. And Iris has just told me about the disturbing happenings at the Waxwork Museum as well.
So you're fully abreast of the situation already, Miss Susato. I'd expected nothing less, to be honest.
I would think our first port of call should be to investigate this Mr. Drebber. The engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect this extraordinary trick.
Gosh. I don't know what's up with my throat tonight. Yes, a conjurer of sorts, by the sounds of it. Well known in the fields of science and magic.
Then we need to go and arrest him.
Well, yes. You must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we really do need to find the man.
It sounds like it's a case of tracking someone down. Which is a job for the police, or a great detective.
Are we supposed to guess who she might be thinking of? Don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think.
Good idea. Well, best of luck then.
Oh, you're not coming today? You tried ingesting Vaseline.
I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But let me know later how you got on, won't you?
I feel like Iris's voice, I feel like Iris and Susato's voices are just off tonight. That was a little abrupt. The pull of the herb market must be strong. Oh, who's that standing behind Lord Strongheart?
I wonder. I've never seen her before.
Ooh, I like that design. Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result. Oh, you mean because of Professor Harebrain's experiment? Sham science being demonstrated at London's Great Exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish. Now politicians are scrambling to respond. Lord Van Zeeks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing. Oh dear, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. I will say, my girl voices are off tonight. My Strongheart voice is on point. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time. It's scrap metal now, is it? Oh my lord, this is a good design.
Until later then, Lord Strongheart.
Yes, thank you. I like women in suits. What can I say? Place looks like a Minecraft base with Create installed. True. So we're still like really early on in Calamity because we haven't done a Calamity episode in actually like 4 months. Almost 4 months exactly, actually. We did our last Calamity episode early in October, if I'm not mistaken. We've been wanting to do more of it, we just haven't gotten back to it, but we've also been talking on the side about, because after Calamity, we're wanting to do modded Minecraft, and we've made such a stupid mod list, it's so fun. Who is that? That was Dr. Courtney Scythe, Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. She's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. She's just delivering her report about the victim, in fact.
Oh, I see. About Mr. Assman.
Apotheosis and Silent Gear together can... Okay. One of Pine's absolute favorite mods is a little mod called Project E. And Project E is absurdly busted. Because its whole thing is that you get, like, a table. Well, you get a crafting station that lets you put stuff in to convert it into value, and then spend that value to transmute stuff. It's an alchemy mod. But, the big thing with Project E is that it very much does not feel like it was intended for use with other mods. Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly. Yeah, it's mainly, if stuff has, like, if stuff is primarily... What's the right way of, phrasing it? If all of the items that are, like, constituent parts of a crafting recipe are vanilla stuff, it actually has the Project E mod has the ability to calculate values for it, but it also doesn't work with, like, Tinker's Construct because it adds in a whole bunch of extra ores and stuff. But there's also, I have explicitly told Pine that we are not including Project Expanded because Project Expanded is so dumb. Because it's like, oh, you know, we've added cross compatibility with like 100 extra mods for Project E, and it breaks the game even further open. You can find her in the forensics laboratory. Ah, right. Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time. So he's not running quite so spectacularly late anymore. This guy is definitely going to be the villain of the last case, like, calling it now. I called it back in Great Ace Attorney 1. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before? The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. He looks like a Fire Emblem character. Oh shit, he does. He reminds me a lot of Gant from the first Ace Attorney game. And if you want to come off as a good guy, that is not a good comparison to be made. That to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now. Unofficially, of course, to pave the way.
Oh, goodness, a year ago.
At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. You can make a 5 million damage sword. One mod that I'm sorry I keep like I'm sorry I keep pausing the game to talk about Minecraft mods, but there's this really silly, like, so in the Aether 2, they have these items that you make with an orange ore that you can find in the Aether that make these explosives that you throw out and they explode into a whole bunch of random items. and it very much is not supposed to be used with other mods. And, essentially, in a mod pack that Pine, Spoods, and I played, we had Aether 2 and I think it's Abysscraft or Abyssalcraft, the Eldritch Abominations mod that adds in a whole bunch of extra dimensions. And it, one of those explosives from the Aether 2 managed to pull a dev weapon that wasn't even in just enough items out that dealt like over 10,000 damage, and it was ridiculous. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division. We hung it on the wall, and I nicknamed it Me Mallet. Once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and the criminals will suffer dearly. What do you mean? For too long, those scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system, with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see to it personally, by creating the finest police force the world has ever known, to protect our honor and our future. Look at those eyes. Means every word. Dr. Scythe is an extremely reliable coroner. Oh, that's one of the mods that we've got on there. It's Ars Magica, I think is what it's called. I think it might be Ars Novo. It's a 1710 mod that's a magic mod that's very granular and very fun. When I officially establish the Forensics Division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba.
Oh, yes, my lord?
I think Ars Novo might be the one that I used in that we used in a 112 mod pack. Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan.
Yes, that's right. I understand he'll arrive at the beginning of next month.
Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikotoba, I mean. It was many years ago now. This man is very progressive for turn of the century England. Yeah, but he's also trying to establish a totalitarian government from just from the vibe that he gets. Like he's trying to create a police state. I don't think this guy is to be trusted. It was many years ago now. But yes, I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well. We kissed a little on the side. It was nothing much, but it awoken something. Not only being approving of a woman doctor, but let alone put her as the head of her department. Yeah. If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student.
It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago, in fact.
Mikotoba was a young practitioner of forensic science. Jigoku accompanied him as a young, promising judge. Punctiliousness? What? How do you pronounce that word? politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way. Didn't think that you were. Dr. Mikotoba studied forensics at one of London's large hospitals. St. Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Scythe was also there then, as it happens.
Then Dr. Scythe knows my father, does she?
She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I have no doubt they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was here studying his subject for some 6 years in total.
6 years? It's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years.
So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years?
It was a rather turbulent time at home.
Oh.
Perhaps Father wanted a reason to get away.
What do you mean? Why? Well, clearly something was going on at the time. I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago. He really went, Susato, I'm going to get some milk. Stay with Granny and be a good girl, yes? Yeah. Starting to get the feeling that Mikotoba is actually like a spy from the British government. He got hired while he was here on the study test to spy on shit in Japan. By a mass murderer known as the Professor, who targeted nobles and royalty, is that right? You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. Yes. You could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother, Clint Van Zieks, was murdered. It was just after young Barak had graduated from the University of London and became a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing. Rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Barak Van Zieks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind.
Oh my word!
So, Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper. It's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles. Oh yes, Lord Strongheart. Go ahead. It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains if possible. Are you well versed in science, then? Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legally preventing investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Scythe's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But the fact that Naruhodo couldn't say that with a straight face and so shameless me. Yeah, it's great. It's also 100% something that Phoenix would say as well. It must run in their blood. Thank you for the hydrate, Nautilus. I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at it's better than nothing.
And I'll be able to see it too.
Our time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls.
We're extremely sorry to have troubled you when you're so busy, my lord.
Apollo Justice is out? Really? Oh yeah, I guess that is today, isn't it? Or did they accidentally release it earlier and I'm just misremembering? It's got a mode that's basically just objection.lol built in where you can fuck around with the models. They showed that in the pre-release stuff and just I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium. You understand? You want to send it in the Discord, not? Okay, lots of places to go. Cool. But yeah, I think it's really weird because I want to jump into the Apollo trilogy, but at the same time, like, you know, obviously I'm gonna finish this game first because clearly, but I also really want to stream the investigations games, and I don't know where I would fit those in, like. I don't know, do Apollo Justice, and then do the first Investigations game, and then do Dual Destinies, and then do Investigations 2. What's he doing?
He's... Oh my! The whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations.
Still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Susato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you.
I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in court this morning. Oh no, 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 no. The whole thing, the whole miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot.
Professor Hairbrain, what have you been working on in your cell?
Oh, you mean that? Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass your super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? No, actually. This is my autobiography.
Your autobiography?
How I Was Diddled and Fiddled by Albert Hairbrain. You might want to, reconsider that name, because I think that might attract the wrong crowd. I found I can represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers and ambitious set of simultaneous equations.
Really?
I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the kinesis machine, you see. So it's going to be a new serial publication from next month. Part 1, An Odd Birth, An Odd Upbringing. Can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh, yes. Yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. Sounds like you had a fun time. By Asman and that aloof engineer, Drebber. We're not gonna have to sit through an explanation of all these equations, are we? Everything I believed in has been turned on its head. My research, Mr. Asman, the kinesis machine, my hypothesis even. I'm sorry it's come to this. There really was no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. It was my intention to deceive everyone instead. I didn't want to trick the public.
No, of course you didn't.
But in court this morning, I realized something. It's a really good accidental pun. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me.
Oh, Professor.
He believed in me this morning, you know. Barok did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, no. Barok wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believed it. Not in context of the prior statement. Yeah. That's fair. Did he? I think I understand now. Why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. Like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Barok, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense.
And in that case, You would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor.
Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Baraka insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. I think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul.
But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he?
Well, admittedly, that part of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. What about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea? Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start? Sorry to say, that does seem likely, yes. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. It would have benefited his defense for murder, but he would have been absolutely ruined scientifically speaking. Like, as a scientist, he would have been absolutely ruined. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all of humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused. He was so empathetic. In reality, he's just the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems. I still can't believe it. This guy hasn't been beheaded yet. Hey, Pine, how are you doing? Pine, you missed it. We had a conversation about Project E earlier.
As the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic, it probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually.
But the scale of it wasn't just some small trick. Swarm of gups. So, I see that you're, melting your PC currently. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. PC was very angry. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all of that, only to be taken for a complete fool. It's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree. 20 to 30 full-size gups on screen at once, nearly crashed when you killed most of them in one shot. Were you doing like a multiple loop run? Or were you doing like simulacrum or something? He was the original author of Equivalent Exchange, of which Project D is a modern port/update of. The air smelled of strawberries. Did you just get like... Did you just like, you didn't even loop, you just genuinely got a random, all gup thing and it nearly crashed your game? Whenever, like, Squiggles, you saying Pahi makes me, like, it keeps making me think of the streamer Pahi. That's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Assman is no more, of course, which leaves only the engineer. Stage 4 all gups and you were like an hour into the run.
Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Assman first brought Mr. Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've met him many times to discuss details about the Kinesis machine. at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist?
No, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist.
What do you mean?
He had a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent on conversation.
I see.
But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues that you can give us as to his whereabouts?
I'm sorry. We only ever discussed the kinesis machine. Nothing else. Although, just once, I did visit his workshop. What workshop?
Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my great machine.
Why didn't you mention this before? Nick Drebber's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there. So you've been to Dr. Drebber. So you've been to Drebber's place of work then?
Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place. Plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see.
So, kinesis literally just means, like, movement, right? Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Dr. Drebber there. Why do I keep reading it as Dr. Drebber?
Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure. As in, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry.
I was more than half expecting that.
You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there.
Now are we in the realm of blaming cheap outsourced manufacturing? No, we're in the realm of blaming a known con man. Blindfolded you? Wasn't taking any chances then.
The place was incredible. The pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best. A special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. The indescribable scent of that imported oil.
Movement and motion and the likes for kinesis. Does that mean that you could theoretically call something like a trebuchet a kinesis machine?
Performers across the world should forget their secret formulae and use that instead.
Or perfumers, not performers. You mean what? Oh, what do you think, Miss Susato? Howdy machine for your next birthday?
I never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Naruhodo, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor? You don't have a business card for Mr. Drebber, for example.
And was clearly very cautious, Mr. Sato. I'm sure he never would have.
Aha! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. It's right here, look. Let me see that.
Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you?
Enoch Drebber, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address.
No? Oh well, can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful. Kinesis machine is a type of gym equipment. That's like a, that's something that's like a leg exercise machine, isn't it? Sachi, how are you doing? The mortuary assistant. Up till 1 tonight? Believe this is it. Dr. Scythe's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose. There's plenty to assault on the eyes in here, too. Probably reeks of formaldehyde here. Actually... maybe not. I guess formaldehyde is used for, like, preserving stuff. So maybe? Would you use formaldehyde in the process of, like, performing an autopsy?
It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think?
What a seasoned tourist you've become, Miss Susato. You just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls.
I suppose this is Dr. Scythe's desk.
I would not like to work in a place like this.
It's very tidy, though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work.
Lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can't be good for you. Not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves.
Well, yes, those are valid concerns, I suppose.
Just about cope with the one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's all. Pine, doot, Mr. Skeletal. Well, look at this. What a magnificent display case. Cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen. The intricate carving is a joy to behold. Confess to the crime, skeleton. we should start interrogating people like that. Lock them in a dark room. Skeleton, red eyes. You know, crime skeleton. Surprised you can tell it's cherry wood? Cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen. The intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they?
Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton inside, Mr. Naruhodo?
Miss Susato? Can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of the case? It's how I cope!
I'll be sure to remember that from now on.
Owl.
That looks like an owl and a crow up there.
No. You haven't even twitched since we came in here.
Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo.
I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open.
Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like your Daruma doll on display in the office instead.
Wait, Pine, this isn't the crime skeleton, this is the autopsy skeleton. This is what Dr. Scythe does to her autopsy patients when she's done. She pulls their whole ass skeleton out and cleans it and hangs it on display. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals.
These ones here are labeled highly toxic.
That's worrying. There are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there.
Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them.
Most normal mortuary assistant.
The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals in here sometimes.
Gosh, why is my Susato voice so off? Wow. What was that? Just casually, like, that wasn't even like take a pause to shift my voice. That was like I pushed my voice box in the wrong direction with my thumb and it just like slid up. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. I'm surprised that, he doesn't have anything to say. Table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. And so why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing?
It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air?
Either have to have a cast iron constitution, really terrible sense of smell. Those large jars seems to have pale things floating around inside them. Suppose they're fruit liquors or something. Like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home. Nose blindness.
Father had jars just like that in his laboratory as well. I expect they're human organs and
That was a Freudian slip and a half. Perversing solution.
I expect they're human organs in a preserving solution, probably as examples of some rare medical condition.
Miss Susato, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever.
Oh.
So as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they?
Of course.
Okay, how did the skull get into the jar? Don't you know, the human skeleton is, malleable when you're not actively touching it. It's like how rocks are soft when you're not touching them, but they harden in response to your touch. That's what the human skeleton does.
I had no idea there were so many people in the world.
What you mean? It's really packed here today. Have you never seen that meme, Squiggles? You're not made of oobleck. Know what you mean? It's really packed here today. Your bones are not weeping angels. That's just what your skeleton tells you to keep you from being suspicious. I swear that this is the kind of conversations that Pine, Spoods, and I have just whenever we're in a voice call together. Like, this is the shit we talk about.
It feels as though it's taken us 2 hours just to make our way through the crowds to this point.
Has it? Shut my brain down so I didn't really notice, to be honest. Fun fact, your skeleton has never been dry.
Gosh, I do wish I had your absence of mind sometimes, Mr. Naruhodo. There you are. I had a feeling you lot would show your mugs before long.
Why did that... That was not... I thought that was Gina, because Gina was on screen, but... Oh, Inspector Gregson. I see you're hard at work as usual. That was also a very good Gina Lestrade impression. If all has gone well in your life, your internal organs have only ever lived in the dark. Warm greetings to you. I do hope you've been keeping well since last we met. What's with all the ceremony? We just saw each other in court this morning. And you, Sunshine, the gentlewoman, so loyally at your side.
Oh. Why, thank you, Inspector. How good of you to notice.
I'm here to put you in jail because of your, tampering with the crime scene in the last game. Might be a bit rough around the edges, but he's still a proper English gentleman at heart, I suppose. As you've probably guessed, we're hoping to investigate the scene some more. Right, well, it's the young trainee's domain. Really? Boy, get over here, Gina. She seems to be busy playing with a puppy, probably giving it a traditional East End training. Pull up, let him cook. Which one? Because the scene that immediately comes to mind is one of the few scenes from Kingdom Hearts 3 that I've seen that's Woody putting his hand out in front of Sora. That's one of Pine's favorite out of context Kingdom Hearts moments because they don't know much about Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, the Woody holding off Sora. No spoilers for Kingdom Hearts 3. I know very little about it. Seems to be pretty busy playing with a puppy. Probably giving it a traditional East End training.
Gina, she's a police officer now?
That wasn't quite your voice. It was slightly too high, but amazing, isn't it? Good kid, actually. Heart's in the right place. Anyway, she's got the detection bug, if you ask me. Yep, I think she'll follow in my footsteps nicely. What do you mean? Being transferred. It's time for me to say toodaloo to London.
Oh no, really?
It's a bit sudden, isn't it? I had no idea. Where are you going to be posted then? We'll come see how you're getting along. Not likely. You're welcome to try. Don't mind a trip to France, that is. To France? We're working on the Paris Police Prefecture. You're right up my alley. But France? It's an entirely different country. I don't understand. Why would you be sent there? For his crimes. That's the way the adult world works, Sunshine. Now don't go poking your nose in where it's not wanted. This is his punishment for the whole lying in testimony bit from the last game. He's being transferred to Paris. He committed crimes, Reno. Gregson. If we have a particularly pipe bomb joke heavy episode, I'm gonna name it The Adventure of the Violent Surprise Cylinder Pine. The crime of not liking corned beef. He's being banished to France, the worst punishment to a British man. Intended to take the kid with me when I go. What? You're taking Gina to Paris? Well, I can't leave her here in London. Who knows what had become of her? I suppose he's worried she slipped back into slipping her hands into people's pockets and purses.
I don't think he's worried about her pickpocketing, Mr. Naruhodo. I think he's more worried about the Reaper.
Where's he gonna get more bottomless corn dogs? I doubt they have those in France. Oh, of course. So that's playing on Inspector Gregson's mind too, is it? Wait, I haven't mentioned any of this to Gina. Go blabbing, you hear me? No, of course not. Gonna keep that diving diva safe and sound. Till all this is over, at least.
Oi! Did you just call me a bloomin' diving diva again?
So you heard that, did you? Like I said before, he's just got the Minecraft Infinity enchantment cast on his fish and chips. We all know the British have the power to manifest fish and chips whenever. Does that mean as half British, does that mean that I can summon either fish or chips at whatever I want? Right, well, any questions about the scene, you can put them to my capable detective diva here.
Alright, you heard the boss. Inspector Lestrade's in charge here now.
Suppose I'd better keep my word and not mention anything about Paris. So, Gina, you've got a new dog, have you? You get the chips?
Isn't he great? Toby's his name. Oh, how delightful. He's absolutely adorable.
You can only summon half of Infinity Fish and Chips, which leads to an error and thus defaults to 0. But half of Infinity is still Infinity. Not. Some infinities are larger than other infinities. And half of an infinity is still an infinity. Gosh. Like, fish and chips just steal her feathers. Which way is more, a kilogram of feathers or a kilogram of steel? Yes, the dog does seem lovely. It's not, but it's the not so lovely Inspector Gregson that's playing on my mind, to be honest. Gosh, we're getting so sidetracked this stream. It's been an hour and a half and we're only like 3 scenes into this investigation. But steel's heavier than feather. That's right, a kilogram of steel, because steel is heavier than feather. Yeah. Can y'all feel my preemptive VTuber energy manifesting by getting it completely and utterly sidetracked? Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again.
Yeah, alright. It's around here. Or if it's around here, you can do what you like.
Oh, that's alright, is it? What a goddamn VTuber you are.
I'm gonna be playing with my new friend here.
Ah, yes, Toby.
The machine that exploded must be at the top of these stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. I'm sorry, you can't go up there, Susie.
Okay. I know that I just made a comment about getting sidetracked, but I'm about to sidetrack even more. I fucking hate Blender. Oh my lord. I have spent most of today trying to learn how to attach 2 pieces to the same thing and have them rig properly together, and it does not work. I swear.
Oh. It's like I told Odo yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it. Special
Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Is that what you're thinking of?
That's the one. That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it.
I've lost Gina's voice.
What are they called again? The Forensic something?
Forensic Investigation Team? Is that what you're thinking of?
That's the one, yeah. But isn't it the case that the special dispensation has been lifted?
Like, essentially, the overline or the outline of my issue that I'm having with Blender is that I guess minor thing, I guess. I've been working on a 3D VTuber model. I used Vroid to make a base for it. And I'm not gonna show any of it, but I've made a decent looking model with messing around with some stuff there, and I'm trying to attach a hat to the top of my model's head. And for some reason, the only result I can get by attaching the hat like to the head is either it doesn't move at all in response to tracking with face tracking, like the hat doesn't move at all but the rest of it does, or what happens is that the hat and the hair get attached to each other and the head moves independently from them and the hat and the hair just rotates in place.
I think so. I don't really get it, but to be truthful with you, you're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know. What was his name again? Lord Strange something. I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps. That's the one, yeah. Apparently he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. You what? You've met him? Last time the boss was called to go in and see him, he waited for 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling.
Tragic.
Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene, as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah?
Honestly? Honestly?
Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. And so, you're still saying this is all above board, are ya?
I feel like Gina's accent is just degraded.
I'm sure everything will be fine.
That really would be tragic.
Alright then, them's the stairs. Off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina.
Hat and hair just spinning like a ballerina. Yeah, here's the thing, it's especially stupid because it doesn't rotate like front to back, it rotates top to bottom, like the whole ass hair model rotates. So it's not like the hair rotates to be in front of the face, it's the hair rotates clockwise in place.
It was great, weren't it? I had a right laugh. It was a new one on me, that. You know, being in court and not spending the whole time worrying I'm about to be found out. You did keep an awful lot of secrets in your previous court appearances, didn't you? Yeah, Otto's made things odd for me every single time and all.
Just doing my job, Gina.
But watching someone else get it in the neck is a lot of fun, actually. It was amazing when you showed that dodgy professor's dodgy experiment was a total fix. The dodgy professor, as you put it, Gina, is Mr. Naruhodo's client.
Yes, I'm starting to wish he wasn't, though.
It's the boss I feel sorry for. Sent off to do the impossible. What do you mean? He's supposed to arrest that other cove, isn't he? And in time for tomorrow and all. You know the dodgy engineer? What's his name again?
Mr. Drebber, you mean? Enoch Drebber. Okay, I think the reason that my brain reads Dr. Drebber is because the first two letters of his name are DR. So my brain sees it out of the corner of my eye and it processes it as Doctor. And then it was like, oh yeah, this is talking about Drebber, so Dr. Drebber.
That's the one, yeah.
So the police are looking for this mysterious man with the black monocle. Guess they would be.
It's putting too much on the boss, if you ask me. This is giving him a gut ache.
Sure that's not all the fish and chips?
Oh dear. But I do wonder if that isn't actually from all the fried food.
So Scotland Yard are trying to track down Mr. Enoch Drebber. I wonder if they've had any luck.
He's really funny looking. Got two eyes what don't match. Stole a glimpse of a picture of him earlier. I mean, I didn't actually pinch it or nothing. Neil Devil's got it.
Sorry? Who?
You know, that Scowlin' Reaper what's always glugging down glasses of that blood-red plonk. Ah, Lord Van Zeeks. He's always at it in for me, that cove. Don't know what he's always scowling about, mind. Probably would have been a pretty good boss as it goes.
Or wouldn't be a pretty good boss. You'd rather be the Reaper's apprentice than the detective's trainee? The way I see it, if the choice is between a chip-guzzling detective and a chalice-glugging demigod, you're equally badly off with both.
I suppose you're right. I hadn't thought of it like that.
I'm glad we put that one to bed.
Anyway, the point is, everyone at the yard's dead set on finding the fishy engineer. But there don't seem to be no clues to go on, so they're stuck.
Nothing that can lead us to Drebber at all? Where did you find that little mutt then, Gina?
Boy, don't be so flamin' rude, Odo.
Slight overreaction, don't you think?
He ain't no mutt, alright? Toby's, how do they put it? Oh yeah, a bona fide detective.
Sorry?
I've given him a proper title and everything. It's Chief Inspector Toby to you.
More senior than Inspector Gregson, is he?
Oh, so he's a police dog, is he?
Police recruit dogs now?
I've heard that they're already being used officially in Germany as part of their city policing. They're used for chasing criminals and such like. They have a wonderful sense of smell, after all.
I have a fairly good sense of smell myself, as it happens. I can tell undergarments that have been freshly laundered from undergarments that haven't.
That's nothing compared to this little fella, Odo.
Oh, really?
According to what the boss said, once Toby has got a good whiff of your drawers, he could chase the scent to the other side of the world.
What? To the other side of the world? You mean he can swim?
Mr. Naruhodo, I think you may have missed the point, by a rather wide margin.
I just can't believe this little dog has such an incredible skill.
I'm telling you, Odo, there's gonna be more and more dogs doing their bit for the police in the future. Yes, I agree. Right, one of these days they'll be barking orders at us lot, not the other way around. Oh dear. I'm sorry, Gina, I don't think I agree with your vision quite that much. Well, anyway, whatever you think about that, Toby is Britain's first police dog. And found him down on the East End the other day. Someone had just chucked him out on the street.
There you go. I knew she'd lifted him from somewhere.
Oh, Gina, you're such a kind-hearted soul, aren't you? To children and to animals.
Gosh. Nah, you were right. This case is absolutely shredding my throat. Puppy. Sachi, have you seen any of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright? Out of all the cases, this one has the most amount of women lines. Stairs lead up to the experimentation stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. Oh my gosh, the dog from Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright is absolutely adorable. He's in a little Knights Templar uniform and everything. It's adorable.
Oh my, so this is the machine that was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis had taken place.
Yes, that's right. Or rather, it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment. I forget what the name of the dog is. I want to say that it's like Constantine. It's got a name that's it's similar vibes to that, you know?
What extraordinary lengths Professor Harebrain went to in order to obtain the research grant.
No. The professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it.
Yes, of course. It is amazing, though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is so very British.
Right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure.
Oh, look. Is that... Lord Van Zeeks?
Teleports behind you. Nothing personnel, Nipponese. So I think we're more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Miss Susato?
Already?
Is the Reaper, remember? Do well to keep our distance, I think.
But we have permission to be here. From the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything.
From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart?
Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like.
Could have been at the center of the explosion here, and it wouldn't have bent her steel will.
What a terrible explosion it must have been. Even the steel girders have buckled and twisted in the blast.
What they called the birdcage was right in the middle of it all, just here.
But look, Mr. Naruhodo, the metal grill on the floor. It looks as though it's designed to open.
Yeah, I was just noticing that. It's got hinges. It does, doesn't it? The floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred. The birdcage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight.
I don't think there's any doubt that this was a very elaborate hoax, is there? Oh, isn't it exhilarating? All this different architecture from all corners of the world.
Does make you feel a bit like an explorer, doesn't it? I know it's all subjective, but the onion-shaped roofs have rather caught my attention personally.
It is very subjective, isn't it?
Japanese buildings with their wood and paper construction have excellent ventilation. I've realized that British buildings being made from brick and stone are very strong and long-lasting. The more you know about how things are done in other countries, the more you understand your own, I feel.
Oh yes, I do agree with you there.
I can't help wondering what an onion does for the roof of a building. I mean, I suppose it's playing on my mind because I don't like the taste of onions. Rock and stone.
You really oughtn't let your taste in vegetables dictate your taste in roofs, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that horn-shaped transmitting device. Isn't it amazing?
That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it.
It makes you think, doesn't it? If only it had just been a normal horn, none of this would have happened.
That's almost exactly what I thought as well. What do onions and roofs have to do with each other? Well, I mean the shape of those ones look like onions, but I bet I can predict what you're going to say next in that case. You're about to say, nothing ever goes to plan, aren't you?
Oh no, I would never say something like that.
However much I look at them, I just can't come to terms with those Tamari handballs floating in the sky.
You've been glaring at them constantly since we came up here.
Sorry, feelings of wanting to ride in one and wanting to never set foot in one are fighting it out inside me. Layers.
But if you don't look where you're walking, you might fall off from the stage.
I don't think I'd notice. That's how fiercely the battle inside me is raging.
I think you should make peace with riding in one, Mr. Naruhodo. It would be much safer that way.
This wasn't here yesterday. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before it was apparently beamed through the air.
That's right. The birdcage, according to what Professor Hairbrain said in court, is made of wood.
Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think.
Sec. Sorry about that. Needed to blow my nose. And I'm gonna take a sip of water now.
And despite of having been in an explosion and then falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed.
Ben Zeeks is standing there menacingly, judging you. He's trying his best to, he's trying his best to ignore you. He's like, oh, you.
What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo?
I understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. Suppose they must have brought it back here when they'd finished their work.
But sadly, not with the body inside it.
No, that's right. I know we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still. This is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. Might need it for the trial. Now I want to look at this in 3D. The body was the skeleton in the closet. Miss Scythe is already done peeling him. Ah, look here, Miss Susato.
Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose that's because it fell from such a great height.
Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying, down to the crystal tower below. Fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters.
Leaving the man inside, tragically dead.
Is that it? Is that all that's here? Van Zeeks is over here watching us, like, completely manhandle the cage, just pick up the whole ass cage and rotating it in 3D. Least approachable man in the world winner, 10 years in a row.
Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistant stand firm behind you.
Lord Van Zeeks. What? Well, beautiful weather we're having, isn't it? I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently, you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. Oh, I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited. Ah, well, the thing is...
Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate.
It's a terrible pickup line.
On the condition that we didn't disturb anything.
Yet you've managed to disturb me. Ah. Never mind. State your business, then. Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Zeeks about. Not least of which is that awful case. And though it's got nothing to do with this.
Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try.
Hey, so, about your dead brother. Oh shit, that's actually an option. So, Clint. Was the name of your old brother, I understand. Or older brother, I understand, Lord Van Zeeks. You Nipponese. I always have to be on guard whenever you're around. So, you've been investigating me, have you? Oh, no, it's not like that. Well, alright, it is a bit like that. My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Zeeks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us. The professor, you mean? Is something funny? That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised. Sorry? There's more to it, then. Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it? Too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? You know, okay, can I just say, I really appreciate, like, that... I really appreciate that Ryunosuke is snarky about Van Zeeks kind of being a piece of shit. So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident?
As it happens, Lord Van Zeeks, there's a rather curious case that's come to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Two-Spells Museum of Waxwork by any chance?
I am, naturally. I believe that since last month I feature in one of the displays there for public scorn. Of course, the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he?
Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place and held for ransom.
Particular waxwork? Which... Wait. You mean... Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak. I was unaware of that. It's turned as white as a sheet. Nah. He's already as white as a sheet, Ryunosuke. Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drebber, already? Surely that goes without saying. We're very keen to see him found as well. Trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier.
Which, according to Professor Harebreen, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle.
So I was just wondering. I mean, I realize it's probably not possible, but
We'd very much appreciate any more clues you could give us.
wow. Susato-san really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine. Why not? I have a photograph of the man here from an investigation 10 years ago. Though it appears he already had that black monocle at the time. What?
Oh, no, nothing. Just surprised that you shared that with us.
We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow. Which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in the short time available. So why wouldn't I show you the photograph?
What is it about Lord Van Zeeks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all.
The file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you.
You alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo?
Lord Van Zeeks' apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Susato-san can see it too.
Lord Van Zeeks. May we speak with your apprentice for a moment?
With him? Why?
Kazuma-sama.
Kazuma? Don't believe it.
Your posture, your presence. It can only be... It's you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama?
Felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure. As if I knew him somehow. Can it really be you, Kazuma? Wait! Too late. What's going on here? I'm very glad that Susato, like, recognized that straight away. Like, she's always had the sharper intuition of the two of our protagonists here. And so it wouldn't feel right if she sat there being like, is that him or is that not him? No. Like, I appreciate that she, like, saw through it right away. What is your interest in my apprentice exactly? You act as if you know the man or something.
Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago.
Lord Strongheart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor. But he didn't tell you why, did he? The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself.
He has amnesia?
Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side.
What?
He's to serve as my judicial assistant on Lord Strongheart's orders.
You'll be in court with us.
Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course.
Oh, yes, thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. Susato-san called out like that. It really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazuma-sama. You'd already met that masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Van Zeek's office. I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us. I know. We're going to need to speak with him about that.
We're going to have to leave now. The forensic investigation team are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems.
What sort of problems?
Foreign affairs problems.
Well, we could do without that. Alright, we'll be on our way. Let's go, Miss Susato. Of course. Hi, Gina. He's not here, of course. Oh wait, he's at Madame Two Spells, isn't he? Oh my! No wonder it's called the House of Horrors. I'd like to turn on my heels and go straight home. Via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets? I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but... there's no sign of Mr. Sholmes anywhere. That's strange. He should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Great.
We miss examining something here? Wait, was this the skull that you're talking about before, Squiggles? Because if this is the skull you were talking about, this isn't a jar. This is like, it's a glass lid. Like, the little thing on the top isn't a, it's not a bottleneck. It's like a handle. You lift the whole thing up. Bell jar, is that what they're called? Gina. We were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again.
Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like.
Oh, that's alright, is it?
I'm gonna be playing with my new friend here.
Ah, yes, Toby. Apparently we can't look around on the stage now because the forensic investigation team are at work. Can you do anything, Gina, in your capacity as Inspector Lestrade?
Look, I'd like to help you out. But I'm just a trainee, ain't I? Ain't nothing I can do.
It suits you, yes.
Here's the scorching on the ground that you mentioned.
Yes, and there's what's left of the green balloon's envelope. All clear evidence of the balloon that exploded on the day of the incident.
And poor Professor Harebrain. I do feel sorry for him that his dreams have been shattered like this.
Someone's well and truly burst his bubble, as it were. Ouch. I'm a bad person. I don't know why that just like him just being like, ouch, I'm a bad person came completely out of left field.
Ah, the Crystal Towers. Or Tower. I can't believe I'm seeing it in such close proximity with my own eyes.
Really been looking forward to the great exhibition, haven't you, Miss Susato?
Oh yes, when I found out that I had to return to Japan, I'm afraid I cursed my luck.
But here you are, back in London, gazing up at the magnificent tower.
I know, perhaps I was wrong to curse my luck so harshly. What a shame that the symbolic landmark of the Great Exhibition has been damaged like that.
Yes, unfortunately, the birdcage crashed into the most prominent position possible. It's the gods giving us a warning, if you ask me. Man must travel under his own steam and not cut corners with instantaneous kinesis.
But imagine what might have happened if the birdcage had landed on a slightly different location.
Yeah.
The death toll could have been far worse. So I think perhaps it was a blessing in disguise.
Well, the gods are benevolent, obviously. I did say it was just a warning. Man must travel under his own steam, or next time birdcages will rain down on all of you.
Your faith is much stronger than I realized.
Well, how do you think I passed the entrance exam for Yume University? It wasn't by studying alone. I need to, like, present Gina with something. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go?
Looking for this, Odo.
How did you do that?
Well, wonder if you got anything else to show me, eh? What do you reckon?
Give that back first, please. Stark smudge here.
I think perhaps it's machine oil.
Yes, possibly. Professor Hairbrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Drebber uses, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain.
Yes, that's right, but more importantly, it's more fragrant than the finest perfume. So, excuse me a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all.
Don't worry, I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount on here. You heading to bed, squirrels? We better not try going up those stairs to the stage area now. If we were to bump into the forensic investigation team, it sounds like it could make trouble. What are we missing here? About this, Gina.
Yeah, I'm still learning me letters at the moment. I only know A to E. And so if it ain't too much bleeding trouble. Actually, Gina, it's the back of the card that's important. Eh? How come? There's just a dirty old smudge on the back, that's all.
Have a good night, Squiggles.
It turns out that this is very high quality French machine oil. It has a very particular scent, apparently.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
You don't say. Let's have a whiff then. You sure? I don't smell nothing.
No, not French. No, we didn't mean that you should smell it.
Oh, right, you mean Toby.
It's motor oil, so I don't think you could fry things with it. His sense of smell is so good he can track people over oceans, can't he?
Professor Hairbrain informs us that this oil is unique to Mr. Drebber's workshop.
I don't know why. I thought she was holding the dog like it was a gun. He's picked up a scent. You can if you're not a coward.
So you mean if he follows the scent to this oil, Toby could lead us to that Doggy Cove's workshop?
Dodgy Cove's workshop, not Doggy Cove's.
That's right, that's exactly what we were hoping. Alright then, we'll give it a go. I'll just borrow that.
Wait, when did you... Once a pickpocket?
If I can lead everyone to that Drebber's workshop, I'll be the boss's boss before next week. Oh yes, Gina. I'm sure you'll be promoted.
Poor Gregson.
Right then, Odo. Leave it to me.
Sorry?
We're gonna get going after that doggy...
I read that as dog again.
After that dodgy engineer cove right this minute. Oh, but hang on. Someone's supposed to be on guard duty here all the time.
Afraid we can't help. We need to get on with our investigation as well, Gina.
Oh, right. Oh well, never mind. It ain't gonna be me what gets it in the neck. It'll be the boss.
Poor Gregson, again.
Ready, Toby. Get that oil scent, have ya?
I got that oil scent.
Come on then, boy. And see you later.
Please don't get yourself into trouble. Get Van Zeek's on guard duty. Honestly, like, could you imagine if Naruhodo was just like, go get Van Zeek's, he'll stand guard duty.
I do hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop.
Yes, I hope so too. Ideally before the dog swims across the channel to France. There we go. This isn't done yet, so I guess we're going to 2 spells. Or not. Where am I supposed to be going? That's still the same.
Oh look, a flying balloon. I've never seen one in the flesh before.
I can't understand how they can fly. And so high up as well.
Oh, but think of the view, Mr. Naruhodo. You must be able to see for miles and miles.
I do think of it. It terrifies me. I mean, it would be certain death if you fell out.
I'm sure they're perfectly safe. After all, they've been invented by some of the brightest minds in the world.
Let's not forget that we know at least one has exploded.
I'm sure there are other ways to fly.
You say that, Naruhodo, but, the only reason the other one exploded was because Drebber shot it with a flaming crossbow bolt. So, I feel like I'm missing something here because it says I feel we need to spend a little more time investigating here. I'm dumb. Look at this big, thick book here.
Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh?
What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... well, one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
500? Must be working really hard on dissecting corpses.
I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in certain special circumstances. And scalpel blades can be sharpened too.
It does seem a bit strange, you're right. 500 scalpels a month. What could they possibly be using all of them for?
What are you doing?
Ah. Yeah. Sorry, we, had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so...
And so you thought you'd snoop around. That's acceptable to you people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want?
There we go. Lord Strongheart told us, you see, that it was you who examined the victim's body. Mr. Aspen's body, I mean.
So we came to ask you about your findings. On Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what our investigation has revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately.
I have to say, like, I have to say it, this is a good design. This is such a good design. My gay brain is going awooga. I like women in suits. Sue me.
And so, you want to know what the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene?
Would you let her turn you into a vampire? Absolutely.
The victim, Mr. Odie Assman, who disappeared from the experimentation stage amid an explosion. And the Mr. Assman who appeared moments later, partway up the Crystal Tower. Were without a question, one and the same person. That is the team's conclusion.
But that can't be right.
If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see. If two people who looked very similar to each other were involved, they could have made it appear as if one single person had switched places, couldn't they? Very true. But sadly, in this instance, that was not the case. The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. The fingerprints at the scene make that quite evident.
Ah, fingerprints.
They're not yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British justice system. But one day, they'll be used as an investigative aid. As a matter of course. Oh my, but that would mean that the instantaneous kinesis actually took place. So, where does that leave us? My team was tasked with investigating, not drawing conclusions.
Ugh. Instantaneous kinesis is impossible, yet the body did move from one place to the other. This hasn't cleared anything up at all. It's made the whole thing even more of a mystery. Who is this?
Mama, what's this?
Where did she spring from? And did she just call the doctor Mama?
This is a lawyer, dear. Oh.
Hello? To meet you? Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer. Ryunosuke Nara-
Mama. Yes. Can I cut this one up?
What? Well, I think we know why there are 500 scalpels now.
I've never seen the inside of an Eastern person before. I want to know what it looks like. Of course you can't. It's a live specimen, as you can very well see. Boring.
I think I just had a near-death experience.
Oh dear. Mr. Naruhodo, you're as pale as a corpse.
And let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. Well, I think we've done all the investigating we can here for now. We could just determine the whereabouts of Mr. Drebber.
I'm sure Gina and little Toby won't let us down.
Oh, she seems normal. Man, this game is I don't know if I've commented on it before, but I love plague doctor masks. Like, I don't know why, but the aesthetic of plague doctor masks just, chef's kiss.
Now then, do you think we ought to try to speak with Mr. Sholmes at this point? We have things to discuss, and I'm dying to meet him again after all these months.
Yes, it's quite possible he might know something useful, you're right. We gotta find him at Madame Two Spells. He's supposed to be working there as a temporary waxwork exhibit.
Yes, Iris told me all about this in all about his latest unusual venture.
So, what are you doing at the moment, Doctor?
I'm keeping a close eye on things, so no impertinent Easterners think they can look around in my office.
Are there such impertinent Easterners around? How terrible.
Yes, you.
She doesn't mince her words, Miss Susato.
I think perhaps it's time we left.
That wasn't your voice. That was the other girl's voice, the kid. It feels somewhat colder down here, doesn't it?
Here we are again, at the House of Horrors. I'm afraid I haven't got used to the place yet. I'd still like to turn on my heels and go straight home. Via the confectionery, of course.
Sato-san really is after something sweet today, isn't she? What's the matter?
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that waxwork. I'm quite sure it wasn't there before. It looks exactly like Mr. Sholmes, down to the very last detail.
Aha!
What is it?
Oh, sorry. I think you'll find. It's the temporary waxwork himself. He's back!
Ah, the friend of my dedicated employee.
Oh yes, hello again. It's Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
I must say, I'm quite spellbound by the great detective. He's a marvel. My precious waxwork is already back where it belongs.
You don't mean...
But yes, the mystery is solved already.
What? Okay. Ace Attorney always has really good designs, but what is it about this case? This case specifically has, like, so many characters that I like their designs.
But yes, the mystery is solved already.
Wow, Mr. Sholmes can really engage his brain when he's hungry enough.
And so as you can see, he has returned to his habitual duties.
Yes.
His habitual duties? Hello. Do not disturb her.
Poor Susato-san. She looks very perplexed. Let's go kick him in the shin. They said we need to make sure that people don't just take the fact that that Van Zieks was with a man as their main takeaway. I still think it's most people's main takeaway.
We really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I'm longing to say hello again. But where is he?
I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually.
Oh, what are you?
Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I, the world-famous great detective and waxwork, Sherlock Sholmes. Susato-san! Susato-san! Did she just pass out? My most humble apologies.
I thought I died and gone to eternal paradise for a moment. Via London.
My dear madame, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable street food quality.
I don't understand. Why were you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes?
Merely as a secret identity, you understand? Though the case is largely solved now.
Largely solved.
We're talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume? Indeed we are, my good fellow. As I predicted, it was as easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess, I'm yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise. Or any food so far today, for that matter. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. So how did you manage to solve it so quickly? Well, do remember I said it was largely solved? Anyway, I simply negotiated with the culprit. Are you familiar with the so-called telephone?
Oh yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. In Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as yet.
This morning, a telephone call was received here from the perpetrator of the abduction. As such, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork was returned. It's amazing. Just between you and I, it would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork in any event.
Oh, but I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no?
Yes, I think perhaps. The ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive.
But does that not mean... your negotiating was entirely unnecessary?
A fact I must ask you to keep from Madame Two-Spells at all costs. A hungry young Iris awaits my return to Baker Street, after all. Poor Iris. Now then, I do sense that you have some business with this great waxwork. We're in the process of trying to track somebody down. Oh?
Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. He's the swindler who duped Professor Hairbrain, and the engineer who built the kinesis machine.
A swindler and an engineer. Quite a modern man. Also seems to be a conjurer of sorts, too. Considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. We have so few clues to go on, that's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. I pronounced that word both ways. If I knew something of the man's appearance, at least I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Trevor's appearance. Fortunately for you, however, presently I have little to occupy myself with and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I should gladly give you my thoughts on it. Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print?
It's of Mr. Enoch Drebber.
What do you mean you don't make deductions without data? That's like his whole shtick. Yeah, exactly.
The face of the engineer we seek.
Well, all Englishmen look broadly the same, of course. So looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive. All right, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting. This, very interesting indeed. Thank you for the hydrate, Pine.
What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You've turned quite pale all of a sudden.
I'm curious, how many channel points do you have stocked up, Pine? Mr. Sholmes, did you lie to us? My dear Mr. Naruhodo, stay that piercing stare. What is this about? Not enough.
Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain aboard the steamship, your words were very clear.
So then, let us unravel this mystery and discover what events led to this curious murder.
You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body.
Indeed, and wherein lies the problem? We met him earlier today. The victim, Kazuma Asogi. You're quite sure?
He was wearing some sort of mask, and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead.
Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all. Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? I believe that the crewman present at the time made a mistake. But not you, Mr. Sholmes. I'll now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me? Hey, Avatar, how are you doing? Oh, well, what is it? As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned. And I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken, behind those thick curtains. Oh yes, the Professor exhibit, isn't it? Would you like to see it? For a mere 5 shillings? That's a special, one-time only price, you understand? What? The opportunity won't come again, might I add? Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labor?
Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone...
The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it. Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes? Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain if this is serious or silliness. I can never tell with you, that's the point. Thank you for the hydrate.
Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings.
Gratefully received. I have a really bad feeling about this because my brain is now starting to think that he's gonna pull the curtains back and it's gonna be Professor Mikotoba, because he's, as far as I'm aware, the only professor we've seen. So, the special exhibit awaits beyond the curtain. I invite you to peruse it at your leisure.
Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit.
Through these heavy curtains at last. Five shillings we've had to pay. Doesn't seem right somehow that Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it?
No. We could ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills.
Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. So what makes Britain great? Or is this what makes Britain great? Not to mention demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors.
Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in that list, I think. Oh dear, I felt a shiver run down my spine as soon as I walked in here.
Miss Susato, I say we turn on our heels and go straight home, via a really big confectionery.
We certainly can't do that. We've paid the 5 shillings already.
True. Actually, now I'm looking a little more closely. Paid good money to see an exhibit that's clearly incomplete. The nerve of the great diddling detective is far more terrifying than anything else in this place.
This must be what Mr. Sholmes meant when he said the case was largely solved.
Be that as it may, Mr. Sholmes heavily implied there'd be a clue about the engineer in here, didn't he? But where? As we've paid 5 shillings, let's do 5 shillings worth of investigation, shall we?
Yes, we'll get what we paid for.
That fear or frustration? It's making Susato-sen's voice tremble.
This must be the killer. The fiend known as the Professor.
Yes, I think so. According to what Madame Two-Spells said, he killed 5 victims, all of noble or royal blood.
The waxwork is so lifelike, isn't it? Like all the models in this place.
No, it looks like it could start moving at any moment, doesn't it? Only it had a head, that is. Perhaps we should examine it in a little more detail.
So this is the condemned man.
Yes, the so-called professor.
Then perhaps his head was chopped off by a guillotine. But unable to find peace, he emerged from his grave as a headless ghost.
Do we have to entertain such terrifying ideas, Miss Susato? Anyway, I'm sure the model had a head once. There's a metal fitting for it, see?
Then, perhaps Mr. Sholmes absent-mindedly forgot to reattach it?
It's an extremely absent-minded detective you're describing, isn't it? It's also accurate.
Or perhaps the thief absent-mindedly forgot to include the head when he or she returned it to the museum.
That would be an extremely absent-minded thief. There have been some reason why only the head wasn't returned? Well, whatever the reason, it means we don't know what the face of the infamous professor looked like, do we? Oh. Something caught just inside the convict's jacket here. Looks like a piece of broken glass. Quite a big piece, too.
It's very thick, isn't it? About 5 times thicker than a normal window glazing, I'd say.
Where could such a thick piece of glass have come from, I wonder?
I suppose it must have been made thick to increase its strength. But why?
But why?
Well, perhaps because the glass had to span a particularly wide area, such as in a big building, for example.
Oh, I see what you're playing at. Ah. Well, we've seen a large glass building recently, haven't we? Some of the glass was broken, too.
You don't mean...
Exactly. The Crystal Tower at the Great Exhibition.
But why would glass from the Crystal Tower be lodged inside this waxwork's jacket?
Makes you think, doesn't it? Earlier in court, we established that the kinesis experiment was a trick. And now we discover this fragment of glass here in this waxwork. Is it just a coincidence? Really? I can't check the fucked up looking hand? Why are his fingers like that?
This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. It looks so real.
AI wax model. Seems to be a young man in a white overcoat.
And he has a large shovel in his hand, too. Look.
Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. Can't see his face very well, can you? Perhaps if I just...
Oh, do you think you should be manhandling the exhibits, Mr. Naruhodo?
I'll put it back exactly as it was, don't worry. Ah.
What on earth? How can...
I don't believe it. A black monocle.
Mr. Naruhodo, is it possible that this man is...
Yes. It's Enoch Drebber.
The color of his hair is different, but it's
unmistakably him. Indeed it is. Mr. Sholmes, this man is the subject of your present hunt, I believe. Yes, that's right. Just who is this man? Why is he here in this exhibit? And why does the convict behind him have no head? The head was missing when the model was returned by the thief who stole it. What a surprise. So then the case isn't yet solved, is it? Did I not say so myself? Largely solved were my words, I believe. But I must locate the missing head. Tout de soi, as Madame would say, or I'll be in grave trouble. A very hungry Iris still awaits my return to Baker Street, preferably with rations. Ah.
You know, though, something about this room is strange.
Strange? What do you mean?
Well, the displays in the House of Horrors are supposed to depict real events. Are they not?
Indeed they are, Miss Susato. Do go on.
And as terrifying as they are, the scenes in the other exhibits are believable. But this one... This surely couldn't ever have really happened, could it?
I think it's time I educated you a little. About the nature of the incidents involving the professor 10 years ago.
This part of the exhibit is just as disturbing as the rest. He has a large shovel in his hand, too, look.
Perhaps we should investigate in a little more detail. What's this here?
Well, this would appear to be a lens in the middle, so... I believe it's probably a camera.
A camera? But it's so small. British technology is incredible, isn't it? I mean, what about Mr. Sholmes' skin prints?
I think perhaps you should treat Mr. Sholmes' inventions as exceptions to the rule.
But
anyway, why would the man be in a graveyard at night with a camera?
I wonder. Perhaps he was trying to capture the moment a dead body came back as a ghost on film?
We'll just borrow this for a little while, I think.
We're just stealing the whole ass camera.
By looking at the photographic plate inside the camera, we can see what picture was taken.
What's a photographic plate?
It's a piece of glass coated in a special emulsion that reacts to the light coming through the lens. If we open the cover at the back of the camera, we should find it. Let's have a look.
See yourself, Susato-san. Or you should see yourself, Susato-san. Your eyes are shining. You really do like machinery, don't you? It's quite a large lamp the man's carrying. Or is it a lantern? It's not unlike any Japanese Chochin paper lantern, actually, is it?
Lamp, lantern, Chochin. The point is, it casts very little light. To be walking alone in a graveyard at night with only this. Well, I certainly couldn't do it.
Not sure I could visit a graveyard at all. Even in broad daylight, to be honest.
What a large shovel. He's holding it rather ominously, isn't he? What on earth was the man doing with a shovel in a graveyard in the middle of the night?
Miss Susato.
Yes?
That's a spade, isn't it?
No, it's a shovel.
No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade.
We've been through this, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a shovel.
No. Although, we haven't considered trowels.
We've allowed ourselves to be distracted, I feel. Perhaps we should concentrate on what the man was doing with the implement.
So we're going to bury the hatchet? You're right, though. What was the man doing in the graveyard in the first place? That's the real question. I believe I told you a little about the professor yesterday, did I not? He took the lives of 5 victims, everyone being either a member of the aristocracy or royalty. Oh. All were attacked by an enormous hunting hound and had their throats ripped from their bodies.
Oh gosh, an enormous hound? How awful.
After taking the life of his 5th victim, the killer was apprehended. And it was a case of unprecedented magnitude in Britain, you understand. Accordingly, the professor was tried in a closed court. No members of the public were permitted. Closed court? So you mean that the professor's identity... As you've surmised, my dear fellow, his identity was never made public. Naturally, he was found guilty and was summarily sentenced to death by hanging. He was buried at a grave in Lowgate Cemetery, which adjoins the rear of the prison where he had been held. However, that was not the end of the affair.
Oh.
The very night that he was buried, the convicted man came back to life. Came back to life? He clawed his way out of the ground and emerged into the moonlit graveyard. The exhibit here depicts that very scene, as described by the sole witness to those chilling events. There's a witness? But of course, my dear fellow, it was none other than the young man in the white overcoat. Enoch Drebber. He saw it happen? So this is a waxwork model of Enoch Drebber. 10 years ago, the convicted professor, having been gibbeted and buried, emerged from his grave in the dead of night. The sole witness to that unimaginable scene was this young man. From appearances, I would say he was about 20 years old.
It's so horrifying.
Scared out of his wits, the young Drebber ran to a nearby police station to report the incident. And the sheer terror of what he'd seen is said to have turned his hair white overnight. Yes, as shown in the photograph we have of him, his hair is completely white. For the following few days, the story of what he'd seen was on every front page in the capital. The public was frantic for every last detail about the killer who'd come back to life. As you've seen, an exhibit was even created here at Madame Two-Spell's.
I can quite understand why the man's hair turned white, certainly. But what I don't understand is what Mr. Drebber was doing in the first place. In a lonely graveyard in the middle of the night.
Yes. What was he up to? The professor's acts of terror threw London's upper classes into complete panic 10 years ago. It was a great scandal, one might say, at the very highest levels of society. And since the killer's identity was never made public, rumors abounded. After all, no killer had ever before systematically employed a dog as a weapon of murder. Yes, I can imagine the impact the case must have had. But in time, of course, the rumors abated. So too did talk of the shocking witness account of the convict who came back to life. It was forgotten, dismissed as a dubious ghost story, as a preposterous parlor tale.
But why did people stop believing it?
Why? Simply because there was no resurrection to speak of. Wow. As was established, in fact. What? What do you mean by no resurrection? The police investigated the grave in Lowgate Cemetery and published their findings. The convict's body was found to be buried exactly where it had been following the execution.
No. But that would mean that Mr. Drebber must have lied to the police and the newspapers.
That would appear to be the only logical explanation, yes. The young man subsequently vanished from society, and nothing has been heard of him since. It's rather striking, then, that he should resurface now, don't you think? Of course, the convicted murderer couldn't really have come back to life. It's not possible. But Drebber's hair is unusually white, and if that really did happen overnight as a result of shock, it's hard to believe the incident was an out-and-out lie.
What are the bleeding Nora, Odo? What have you gone and done?
Gina, what are you doing here?
I asked Iris, and she said this is where you'd be, so...
Thank you for the hydrate, Nautilus.
Gina, not so loud in the museum.
Madame Two Spells will have you take a position as a waxwork if you're not careful. I think there might be a more pressing concern.
I still had some flash powder left from 6 months ago, so... Alright, Gina, we understand, but please, put down the gun. Sorry, I got scared.
You should try being the one on the other end of the barrel. So, what brings you here, Gina?
What brings me here? What do you think? We found it. We found that dodgy Cove's workshop.
Most mentally stable 15-year-old shop. Or cop, not shop, wow. What? You found Drebber's workshop?
Yep. Toby's nose took me straight there. The boss and the others are heading over there now in a drag, so come on. Here's the address. Got the boss to write it out. Oh, thank you, Gina. We'll make our way there at once. Alright then, see you there.
Actually remove 15-year-old from that sentence. You go. Don't mind me. I'll just stay here, being still. Thank you for the stretch and the hydrate, Sachi. Ah! Ow. Clearly I needed that stretch. Ah. I got like 3 vertebrae to pop. No, good stretch. It's just... It's one of those things where, you know, you stretch and it hurts for like a split second when it pops, and then it's like, oh, that feels so good. It was that. You go. Don't mind me. I'll just stay here being still. What? I know my place. In the exhibit over there.
Oh dear. Someone is feeling sorry for himself.
Let's go, Mr. Sholmes. You're coming. Your words harden me, I must say. But if I were to shirk my duties here, Madame would have me pay monetary recompense, and Iris's dinner plate would be empty once more. Forget that, I'll pay for everything. Then there's not a moment to lose, my dear fellow. I shall hail a carriage at once. I'll offer to share the cost for Mr. Sholmes, then.
I shall gladly pay half, Mr. Naruhodo.
Thank you, Miss Susato. Right, let's go. If this was a Phoenix Wright and Maya interaction, it would have been Maya volunteering Phoenix to pay, and then being like, nope, you're paying all of it. 100%. That looks like...
Oh, it's another super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine.
Indeed. It would appear so, though only a prototype, naturally.
Ah, so you got here then. Gina, well done for finding this place. And in such a little time, you really worked miracles. And Tobia is the miracle worker.
I thought you lot would show up before long. Hello, Inspector. That's one knitted brow. Looks like he's eating a lemon, not a bag of fish and chips. Yeah, but lemon is like a common, like lemon juice you squeeze on fish and chips. It's pretty common.
And so, Inspector, is there any sign of the engineer?
Sadly not. We didn't find a soul in here.
Oh, what a shame.
Well, thank you for letting us know about this place, and giving us the chance to investigate. According to what Gina tells me, we only found it thanks to a clue that you lot turned up. Wouldn't want to say go to Paris with a debt of gratitude unpaid now, would I? Thank you. Anyway, if you're hoping to snoop around in here, get cracking. Lord Van Zeeks and the forensic investigation team are on their way here as we speak. Him again. I imagine you've got the picture by now. And don't take too kindly to lawyer types. Right. So then, my dear fellow, let's turn this place upside down whilst we have the chance. You, Sholmes. Pardon? Take even less kindly to great detectives than they do lawyers. Very droll, Gregson, very droll. But you may consider me nothing more than an inconspicuous waxwork model. Right then. Let's see what we can find in here. Ah, this appears to be most interesting. Yes, most interesting indeed, wouldn't you say? It's an impressive looking back massager, that's for sure. No doubt that if you hit your shoulders a few times with that, your aches and pains will soon go away. It's a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science. A young scientist could wish for no higher honor. Ah. Would you like a massage? No, no. No, I'm fine, thank you. I had no idea it was such a grand thing.
I think it's becoming increasingly clear that there's much more to this Mr. Enoch Drebber than conjuring tricks.
I couldn't agree more, my dear madame. And how about you, Mr. Naruhodo? Wouldn't you like to take it with you? For your tired shoulders, of course. He's not gonna let that go, is he?
It's curious though, isn't it? You would expect such an important trophy to be proudly on display somewhere, not haphazardly cast aside. English gentlemen can be quite a mystery at times.
What on earth is this?
An aeroplane, Mr. Naruhodo. One day, scientists Scientists believe it will allow humans to fly freely in the skies.
Is that how the trick will be described, is it?
I'm sorry?
Well, it's actually suspended by a thin but very strong cable, isn't it?
Oh, well, this model is, yes, but a real aeroplane would actually fly high in the sky.
Well, suspended from somewhere even higher in the sky, of course. These large metal objects obviously can't really stay in the air, or stay in midair unsupported.
And so to you, the solution is even taller towers?
And this is... It's a European-style quiver of arrows, with steel bolts inside.
Oh, do you suppose...
Crossbow bolts, these. Just the right size for the bow you lot turned up at the exhibition grounds. In other words... Yep, that's more evidence to support your theory. I'll just show that Dr. Drebber was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes of the whole scam.
I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. That machine is covered by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. There would be serious repercussions if you were to examine it, from the Crown and the government.
Well, those two don't seem to be holding back. That particular model shows a way advanced plane. It looks like it's capable of vertical takeoff and hovering. Oh yeah, the propellers are vertical instead of horizontal, aren't they? It's quite hollow inside. No working parts or devices of deception to be seen, my dear fellow.
No loose change dropped on the floor, nothing. Not even a bone for Toby, yeah, my dear fella. British people are very much ruled by their own ideals, aren't they?
I think that's just these two, Miss Susato. This door doesn't want to open.
Yeah, looks like it's got a pretty hefty lock on it.
Specialist locksmith this way over from the yard. Ends off till he gets here. With permission, Inspector, I could have that lock open in less than a minute. But you don't have permission. No one's giving it to you. Rickson looked as though he really enjoyed that.
Well, there's no sound of anybody on the other side.
No, Drebber must have fled at the first sign of... Did I read that right? The first sign of danger.
Oh,
Something wrong, Miss Susato?
well, I thought I heard a noise. From the far side of that door. Well, Gina, did you hear it too? Yeah, I heard it and all. What do you reckon, Toby?
Right, mind the grace. Who's in there? Open up. This is Scotland Yard.
Oh my, someone is in there.
Oh, this rotten, bleeding lock. My dear Gregson, as I said only minutes ago, if only it were countenanced that I could unlock that door in less than a minute. So the tables have turned. Fine. I'll take the rap for it. Let's get us through that blasted door. There, you may enter at will. Confuse minutes with seconds, I think. Time is of the essence, I feel. What are we waiting for? Nothing aboard, I suppose. This is an emergency. There's a strong possibility that beyond that door is the engineer you all seek. He started a minute ago, he just didn't wait for permission. Honestly, that feels in character. That feels very in character. Be prepared for action, my dear fellow. Yes. What? What's happened in here? Why is everything upside down?
Rats. There ain't no one in here after all. But there must be. It was only moments ago that we heard those noises.
Iris has been here, clearly. Maybe that was the sound of Drebber running away.
But there's only one door to this room.
And no windows that could afford any escape route. Those skylights are too high. What's that up there? Hey, footprints on the ceiling? Thank you, Gregson. Thank you for this line. Blow me, what have we here then? No one's investigating the bomb. It's like someone was trying to burn something in a hurry.
Oh, that looks like a set of blueprints.
To what? This is to that Professor Hairbrain's balmy machine, is it? Blimey, if we'd had these, there'd have been no need to muck about trying to investigate all that scrap metal. It's the practice room from high school. It's still got your footprints on the wall and everything. I think I've told that story on stream, but like one of these days when we're doing like Calamity or something, we need to recount that story on stream again. Like, honestly, like every time that like I'm reminded that that's a thing that you did, I'm always impressed because you managed to get a solid like 20 feet into the air. Like, the skylights in that building were very high up. There's something of great interest here, too. This rope was lying on the floor at the foot of that pillar. A rope? What's significant about that? Never mind. You see, but you do not observe, Mr. Naruhodo.
We must investigate this entire room thoroughly, and before the forensic investigation team arrive too.
Yes. This looks exactly like what Iris used to make before she started making pipe bombs. Mr. Sholmes, have you found something? Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, in point of fact, something rather fascinating. What do you make of this? Let's see. Never seen anything like it before. Looks like a bundle of thick cigars wrapped up in a large Miss Susato, what's the matter?
That's a... Surely that's a time bomb, isn't it?
What? What'd you say?
Time bomb?
I'm sorry, but what is a time bomb exactly? You truly are one of a kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll take that as a compliment.
You don't know nothing, do you, Odo?
You haven't got a clue what it is either, have you, Gina? I invite you to consult a dictionary later, Mr. Naruhodo. But this particular specimen is no time bomb, though I confess it has a very similar appearance.
Oh, well, thank goodness. But then, what is it?
I see. So that's it.
Goodness, Mr. Sholmes, have you seen to the heart of the matter?
There are times when I consider my lot most unfair. For I am fated to never know how it feels to flounder as you do when a puzzle presents itself. But I've learned to accept the hardships that come with being a great detective, Miss Susato. Here we go. I feel a great deduction coming. Once again, I can draw two conclusions from the scene. From the scene we see before us. The first is that the inverted nature of the furniture in this room is the work of Drebber himself.
Oh, but how could you...
And the second conclusion is that the small device on the floor there is without a question completely genuine.
Please, Mr. Sholmes, you must explain everything.
It would be a pleasure. After all, it is a great detective's civic duty to teach Scotland Yard the finer points of the trade. Well, Inspector Gregson seems delighted with the idea anyway.
Oh, you deflected the inspector's glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Sholmes. Well done.
You're too kind, my dear madame. I hereby dedicate this great deduction to you. Angry Gregson is hilarious. Kindly stand there, or just there, Miss Susato.
Oh, yes. I'd be delighted.
So, shall we begin? Once again, Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Okay, that's where I'm going to go ahead and end off for tonight. Hopefully my voices were all right this stream. I had a couple of moments where I like hit my stride and was consistently getting them, but I feel like I kind of fell back out of that. This would be super in character if he knew it was a time bomb. He's just trolling so you'd get to almost exploding to disarm it. Yeah. But yeah, exclamation point Discord if you want to join the Discord, exclamation point socials if you want to follow the VODs channel on YouTube or my Blue Sky. Otherwise, give me just a moment and we'll find someone to raid. I'm realizing more and more just how long this game is gonna be, because we're at part 8 already, and I assume that this game has 5 cases because that's like an Ace Attorney staple. And, like, we're still on case 3, and the first Great Ace Attorney was over in 12 episodes, so I get the feeling I'm gonna need to insert a break game here. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure Sin is finishing up. Usually if I run to 6 a.m. or later, Sin is already ending up. Break game after the end of case 3 is a good place. Four and 5 are better without any break game in between. Who should I raid? Actually, it's been a little bit. Sorry. I don't mean to have DG playing in the background. That was a misclick. Have I done Monster Prom with doing all the voices? No. Monster Prom is a game that, like, I've heard good things about. It's just one that I haven't really gotten to. Vividly Vivi. That's a new name. That's... I always feel bad rating into people that are, like, significantly bigger than I am. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Fingers crossed that my throat is doing fine tomorrow. I say this at the end of every one of these streams because I don't want to absolutely destroy my throat like I did at the end of the last Great Ace Attorney. But yeah, if my throat's not feeling up to it, we might play some rando. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope to see you here tomorrow for whatever I'm streaming. Probably more of this, possibly randomizer. Otherwise, have a good one and take care.